Well, hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin Moore. I'm the financial educator for your retirement plan here at Creek Carrier, and I work at Union Bank and Trust. Today, we are back with our Road to Retirement series. We're going to be talking about our middle ages, 30s and 40s, which is also a very expensive time of life. So we're going to be talking about how some markers for solid retirement savings, how to get there, some conflicts that we may have along the way. We're going to be aiming at 30s and 40s. There may be a little bit overlap in the 50s, but really just that middle age. So I wanted to start off with just saying that I'm a financial educator. I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't give you advice. I do get a lot of phone calls and emails from Creek Carrier employees, which is great. But I just want to let you know, if you're listening today, that I can't give you advice, but I could certainly go over all of your options and educate you when it comes to your retirement plan here at Crete. Okay, so our quick agenda today, we're just going to be going through 30s and 40s, the busy years. I like to call them the expensive years. We talked about the 20s, so fresh into our careers this last time, and those are a very expensive time of life as we're kickstarting our career. But middle age, 30s and 40s, we're probably at some sort of peak, getting to the peak of our employment and salary. And so what does this mean for this expensive time of life? So let's just dive right in. All right, I want to start off with a quick statistic. 71% of people ages 35 to 44 have less than $50,000 in retirement savings. This might be the case for even savings because it is just an expensive time of life. We may be married, having children, buying homes, planning for their education. There's lots of things involved that are just very expensive. And I hear from people all the time that as their kids are leaving the house, they're talking to me about putting more away in retirement savings, but that often doesn't come until late 40s, early 50s. So it doesn't surprise me that not many people have much in savings. 9 out of 10 people in their 30s are in debt. This also does not surprise me in the least. As a financial coach, I work with clients all the time, just building budgets, getting out of debt. So this statistic does not surprise me. So if you're one of those, this is not to make you feel bad. It's actually to normalize the situation. And oftentimes when we're in debt, the last thing that we want to think about is retirement savings. It often goes on the wayside. It's not a priority to most, and that's okay. I'm not a big fan of you breaking the bank to try to save for retirement. I'm all about saving what you can when you can, increasing that over time, which you can do here at Crete. They do make it very easy to save for retirement, and changes can be done often, and we'll get over to that in a second here. So a lot of these goals, a lot of people call and say, hey, how much should I have in my retirement account? Well, that's a relative question there. It really just depends on you and what your goals are long term. Now, earlier the better when it comes to saving because of compound interest, the idea that we're putting money away, it's being invested, we're earning interest off that investment. Instead of cashing it out, we're throwing it back into our account. So then our pool of money grows, not only per paycheck because we're contributing to our retirement plan, but that interest is being thrown back in there and then earning interest on that. So the earlier the better. Age 40 saving goal. This is just a goal. This isn't it has to be this way. But a lot of experts would suggest 2.4 times your annual salary by age 40. So 2.5 times your annual salary should be in your retirement savings. By age 50, about 5.2 times your annual salary. So 5 times your annual salary is suggested to have been saved in your retirement account. But not everybody gets there, and that's okay. It's just a suggested goal. But like I just said, the earlier the better. We always have a suggested savings rate of between 12 and 15%. That can include your contribution, Crete's match, and the Crete's profit sharing, which is very generous. So if you can at least get to that 12 to 15% goal there, calculating all of Crete's contributions also, then hey, you're on the road to retirement, which is great. If you are starting a little later in life in your career, you may have to up that a little bit higher, but just starting with 12% or even 10%, that can be huge. I always like to tell people the hardest part of saving for retirement is starting. Putting that in the budget and getting used to it coming out of your paycheck is the hardest part. Increasing that savings over time by 1 or 2% often doesn't break the bank. So let's talk about some risks that we see in our 30s and 40s. And by risks, we're just talking about where's our money going. There's a lot of things that are begging for our money at this age. I'm 37, so I'm right in the middle of what we're talking about right now. So having children, buying a home, saving for your children's college, aging parents, we're seeing this a lot more. Folks are absorbing kind of the cost of keeping their parents well and healthy as they're progressing in their years. So maybe you're taking on a parent in your household or things like that, and it could cost a lot of money over time. So there's a lot of things that are begging for our dollars, and there's a lot of questions on how to deal with that, plus saving for retirement. So let's get to kind of some tips here. The biggest thing when it comes to money is creating a budget. As a financial coach, when I'm working with clients, I have them make what's called a reality-based budget. It is not about making a perfect budget. It is really just a reflection of how we are actually spending our money. So I have a budget sheet that I tell people go back to last month's bank statement, fill it out. Fill out every dollar of what you've spent and figure out where it's going. We need a reality check on where we spend our money because sometimes we're not spending enough money in certain areas or saving enough, but we're overspending in other areas. And that area is typically eating out. Now, some of it cannot be avoided, especially within your industry. And that's okay. If it's part of the budget, it needs to be a part of the budget. That's the reality piece. I am not one to say, stop doing something. It's how can we make this work within a reasonable amount of money? So we have to see what we're spending our money on. So making that reality-based budget and then going back and saying, hey, do I need to pour more in here and take away from here or vice versa? Am I accounting for everything? My annual expenses like car registration or car insurance, things like that. Because once we have a budget, then we are free to take control over our finances and go from there. Now, taking control of finances may be paying off debt. So not taking on any more credit cards and paying off the ones that you have, paying off the loans, paying off your car, things like that. There's debate on whether you should pay off the lowest balance first or the highest interest. That's entirely up to you to decide what motivates you. I have just found that when money issues come into play, it's not a money issue, it's a behavior. And so we have to be rewarded for good behavior. So I like to start people off by paying off smallest balances first because it may only take a couple months to pay off your first credit card and then you're motivated to keep going. So whatever keeps you motivated, do it, whether it's highest interest or lowest balance. But start paying that stuff off slowly but surely. But the only way to do that is to have a good budget there. And then as we're paying things off, maybe there's a little bit of wiggle room that we can start putting more away for retirement or in our savings. So as a financial coach, I am not one to say you have to break the bank in order to save for retirement. I'm just saying do what you can when you can and increase it over time, especially as we become more debt free. So build a budget, pay off debt, and then we can start saving more adequately if you're unable to do a lot in the beginning. But get started because CRETE does make it very, very easy to get to that 12 to 15% rate because of their match and then also their profit sharing. So a little goes a long way when it comes to retirement savings. So a couple other things with this risk or these high demands for your dollars. Find and define what your risks are. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to take on? Whether it is more debt, less debt, more savings, things like that. Your money is always being begged for by other outside sources. You're always going to be spending money. So then you have to prioritize what are you willing to take on and what are you not willing to take on. Avoid more risk. Like I said, don't open up any more credit cards. Pay off the ones you have and close them. It's okay to close credit cards. Sure, it takes a hit on your credit score, but over time it'll shoot back up as that comes off of your credit score. Decide what a want and a need is when we're reducing debt. So I like to have people do their budget, their reality-based budget, then we hone it to make more sense. And then we go in there and we write next to each budgetary line, whether it's a need or a want. Do I need this to survive or do I want this to survive? Our wants can be minimized over time because maybe our wants to do more activities outside of the home actually can be prolonged so that we could pay off some debt in the meantime. So you have to figure out what your wants are and then maybe minimize those for the time being. Don't time the market or chase returns. This is huge. This is probably one of the topics that I get the most phone calls about. When the market is down, a lot of people want to run. They want to hide their money. They want to keep it in cash. When the market is up, that's when they want to start buying into stock, which is kind of the opposite of what experts would tell you to do. When the market's down and we're putting in money on a weekly basis here at Crete, you're buying pretty cheap shares. And when the market's up, it's more expensive to be buying. So if you're going to be all out when the market is low and then all in when the market's high, you're actually trying to time the market and it's not going to be in your favor. It is impossible to time the market, whether it's going to be up or down daily, monthly, annually. But we have to remember we're working with long-term investing when it comes to our retirement account. We're not day trading. We're not worrying about what's happening tomorrow or next month or even next year. We're looking at long-term trends within our investment options that we have here at Crete and how they do over long periods of time. We will always see ups and downs in the market. There's a lot of information about since the Great Depression when we started tracking market trends. They go up, they come back down. They go up, they come back down. That is normal. It's very normal to see an up and down every 5 years or so. We've been spoiled in the last 10, 15 years until COVID hit. But we were very spoiled for a 12-year period. It's actually very, very normal for the market to correct about every 5 years. So timing that market may not be in your best interest, or at least attempting to time that market may not be in your best interest when it comes to long-term savings goals. So just saving, putting it away in your retirement account every pay period is the best long-term planning you can do when it comes to your investments. Have an emergency savings fund. The first emergency savings is usually amounts to your deductible, say your car insurance deductible, so $500 to $1,000. The rest should be dumped on debt. And then after we're debt-free and we start our retirement savings, maybe upping that, maybe savings elsewhere, putting away 3 to 6 months of expenditures, not our entire budget, but expenditures is really adequate savings. And then the rest after that can do whatever you want it to do. All right, purchase insurance. There's a couple other suggestions in here. Possibly start a 529 plan. That's our college savings plans for your kids or grandkids. There's a lot of tax advantages to the 529 plans. And also stay healthy. That's a huge one. I know Crete is big proponents of health and wellness here. There's a lot of incentives behind that because the healthier we are, the less we're using things like insurance or our savings to pay for whatever we need to pay for. So it says the number one cause of bankruptcy is due to health. And I, as a financial coach, I see that a lot, not necessarily the bankruptcy side, but health bills, debt from years and years ago that people are unable to pay. Maybe it was their deductible or they had to pay that extra 20 or 10% after their deductible was met. It can really be a crisis for a lot of folks. There is ways to work within this without even filing bankruptcy. So, but the healthier you are, the less likely that's going to happen because we're staying on top of our health. And just remember, financial health is still health and wellness. So it is very important to keep your money safe and keep your budget healthy because, as probably most of you know, when we're strapped for cash, we are often stressed about it, and stress leads to a number of health issues later down the line. All right, so some online resources, as I always talk about your plan here at Crete. You need to get online to look at your account balance, to make changes to your investments, things like that. You can reach us at ubt.com/RPS, as in Ryan Paul Sam. Log into the account. If you have questions about your account, feel free to call me. That is always an option for you. You can call our plan service team. I'm reachable at 402-323-1374 or caitlin.moore@ubt.com. And then our client service team is 323-1592. So 402-323-1592. You can always reach out to us between 8 and 5. Shoot me an email. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. For those of you that are driving, I know that it is kind of difficult to make these phone calls or emails during drive time, but if you give me a time slot on my voicemail or email, I will try to get back to you during that time. Maybe you've got some downtime during the day. We also have an app, UBT Retirement. You can log into your account there, see your account balance, your investments, things like that for those of you who want to see that account balance a little more often. But otherwise, that is our third in our series for Road to Retirement. Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about pre-retirement and our retirement years. Thanks for joining us.